Hey there, my fellow lunatics. Dakon the Mad here, and this is my mob farm. Today, I'm going to show you how I made it. Now, I got the basic design of this mob farm from another YouTuber. Their name is Kizu, and I will have a link to their channel in the description. Also in the description are the links to two important images. The first image outlines the general farm design, while the second image gives details on spawn tile placement and conveyor belt usage. These two images acted as the basic outline for the farm I ended up creating. However, it is worth noting that this farm is not the same design as in the images, so don't just copy these images and expect the same results. I have spent some time modifying this. So first of all, a couple of basic details. Currently, the farm is 123 tiles wide by 121 tiles long. It spans 8 spawn cells east and west and 8 spawn cells north and south for a total of 64 mob spawn cells. I have the farm in the sunken sea so that I can take advantage of crab spawns, but it's also next to the Desert of Beginnings so that I can add a scarab farm if I decide to build one in the future. The crabs will only spawn in the sea, and the scarabs will only spawn in the desert. However, we can make all the other mobs spawn using our spawn tiles. So first, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to use the map tool to line yourself up along the southwest corner of a spawn cell so that you can line up all of your cells correctly here. So you're going to want to line up the southwest corner of your mob farm with the southwestern edge of a spawn cell. This will line up all of your cells. Now, unfortunately, mine are not lined up perfectly, but by the time I realized this, it was way too late and I was not going to tear everything down and redo it. So learn from my mistakes. Let's take a look at the overall design. Starting in the center, we have the storage room and the AFK chamber. Surrounding this is the inner kill zone. The ground is made of tilled mold tiles and conveyor belts circle the mobs around the storage room. The green spots have urban moss in them to spawn scholars and guardians to kill all of the mobs still alive in the inner circle. Surrounding the inner kill zone are the 4 inner spawn chambers. The inner chambers and the outer kill zone are connected by 4 turret kill zones. Then we have the outer kill zone, which circles around the inner spawn chambers and is surrounded by beach sand to spawn crabs to kill the mobs that are within the outer kill zone. The outer kill zone also has a ring of mold ground that is untilled so that the mold tentacles can also spawn and act as part of the kill zone itself, with both the crabs and the mold tentacles killing all of the mobs that are moving around the tilled mold conveyor belted area that acts as the outer kill zone itself. Surrounding the outer kill zone are the outer spawn cells. To the right of the entire mob farm, I have the Caveling Brute farm isolated from everything else. The entire farm itself is surrounded with a track so that I can easily travel around the farm quickly. I also have a portal room at the northern part of the farm and a portal room in the center for ease of travel as well. I have also filled up any remaining spawnable tiles with lava just to prevent mob spawning. Now, you don't have to use lava. You can use ground tiles if you want. You just want to remove all the ocean tiles so that the sea tentacles don't spawn. And don't use beach sand or mold tiles because you don't want infected cavelings and you don't want crabs to spawn either. I am not going to go over how I built this monstrosity because it would take me hours to tear it all down and days to rebuild it just for the camera. I'm sorry, I love you guys, but not that much. So to recreate this design, just take a look at the images I have attached in the description for the layout and just follow my overall directions, pausing the video wherever you need to. So, what are the major modifications from the original design? Well, I have removed the outer track. This was originally designed as a sea tentacle farming area, and it didn't quite work out like I hoped it would. I've also removed all of the walls separating the outer spawn rooms from each other Same with the inner spawn rooms. This was because Kizu's original design has the rooms isolated by 2 or 3 different spawn types. I am not isolating them. I want all of my mobs to intermingle. So having these walls there actually impedes it. And so by removing them, I'm actually adding extra spawn tiles that I can use, as well as giving all my mobs the ability to intermingle so that they all kill each other. Kizu's original design also shows 4 large chambers with beach sand just for the crab spawns. Now you can see in my mob farm, I've decreased it to 2 and I've kind of split mine in half, putting them all in different cells. Is this better? No, it's not. It's actually worse. But because I did not get my farm lined up right, I had to make an adjustment. So if you have your mob farm lined up properly, take some big chunks, and you might even, if you want, split them a little bit, but you do want to have more crab tiles in the cell. So use up an entire cell, as many as you want to do, at least 2, upwards of 4, and use up the entire cell with the beach sand so that you can get that crab spawn. The reason mine looks the way it does is because my spawn cells are off-centered. This design actually takes these 4 small areas and has them essentially take up 10 spawn cells. So each cell has a significantly lower chance of spawning crabs. However, I have more chances for the crabs to spawn. So, you know, I'm sacrificing my higher odds of spawning and increasing the amount of times, or the amount of ticks of spawn chances I'm essentially getting. If you don't line up your spawn cells properly, then, you know, take a look at how you can manipulate your beach sand so that your crabs can spawn better. As I mentioned before, we were not going to be placing spawn tiles the way that the images describe. We'll be taking full advantage of the spawn mechanics that we learned from my level 1 mob farm. I've also added some extra walls for additional protection to things like drills and robot arms. So let's start by taking a look at where I've made the changes and added the extra walls. And then after that, we are going to take a look at the turret kill zone, build that out, and then build out our spawn areas, and finally cover it all with conveyor belts. Then see it all in action. All right, let's get started. So here's the first major modification, where I have my robot arms set up to bring all of the loot in from the Caveling Brute farm over into the main farm. I have added this divider wall here, and this wall essentially protects all of these robot arms from taking any potential damage done by the tentacles or by any of the other mobs that are moving around. Here's the next major wall modification. I just added some extra walling right here. This protects the drill, as very, very rarely, but periodically, some of the damage from the Ancient Guardians will kind of leak through the wall and will break the drill or the robot arm. So by putting these extra walls here, I am essentially protecting the drill and the robot arm at the bottom from any damage overflow that could hit and break them. Another slightly modified area that I have are these walls right here. These 3 walls protect the doorway into my main storage area from taking any damage from any of the mobs that will spawn here in this section of the kill zone. All right, so over here we have the robot arms that are part of the inner kill zone. This is where the robot arms move the loot into the auto-sorting storage system in the very center. And I have added this little L-shaped wall here, as well as extended this lower wall out right here. So this is to protect against crossfire coming at diagonals. Also, these 2 green areas on the right here do not get used. I haven't figured out what to do with them yet, but at the moment I am not doing anything with them. They do not get any urban moss. They do not get any spawn. Maybe I'll figure out something better to do with them. Maybe you'll figure out something better. And if you do, please leave a comment for a great way to utilize these, because if I put spawn there, they are going to damage these robot arms. So I don't really have a use for it at the moment. But having these walls here and this extra little wall here, I am protecting these robot arms from any cross damage coming from these upper areas where there will be scholars and guardians, as well as from the lower areas where there will also be scholars and guardians. Okay, now I'm going to go over how to put together the turret kill zone here. So what you're going to need are, you're going to need your turrets. I'm using Galaxite turrets. You're going to need electrical wire, and you're going to need electrical generators. So what I want to do is, right now I have a one tile gap here, and I want to have a second gap, but I don't need to put a gap. I don't need to dig out the gap, but I do want to keep my turrets back just a little bit. So I'm going to place down one row of electrical wiring here. And then I'm also going to go ahead and just put down a couple more bits of electrical wire there, because the generator is going to go right here in the back. Now I'm going to protect my generator because I don't want anything accidentally destroying it. So let's go ahead and seal that up. And then I'm going to place down my turrets, and I'm going to alternate them. So I'm going to go every other here. And then I'm going to go back one, and I'm going to place these again every other. All right, so with this general setup, if any one turret gets destroyed, there will still be wiring and there will still be power to all of the other turrets. So this way you've got some redundancy. You're going to want to repeat the process on the other side, and then you're going to repeat this whole setup on all 4 different turret kill zone areas. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'll be right back. When you have completed your setup for the turret kill zones, you're going to want to make sure that you seal up the rooms so that none of the mobs accidentally get in there and destroy any of the turrets. So now let's take a look at the spawn cell area. This is where we're going to be putting the actual spawn tiles, and we're going to be doing it in the same kind of pattern that we have been for all of the other mob farms. Except this time it's a little bit bigger. So I'm going to go over that 11 number on several of the spawn tile types. We're going to take a look at the chart that lets us see which mobs actually have better spawn chances when we have more than 11 tiles. And we're going to add more of that. Now, if you don't want to add more of those tiles, you can leave some of this blank, kind of future-proofing your mob farm for more and more of these spawn tiles to come out as more stuff is released. At the time of filming, we're still in early access, so I have no doubt that there are going to be more spawnable tiles upon official release than I am going to show here. So however many the final number ends up being, you're going to want to put in at least 11 of every single one of those tiles within your spawn cell. Whatever is left over, you can use all of that leftover space for anything else, like orange slime to increase your chances of red slime spawning, or urban moss to increase your chance of ancient guardians spawning, or fungal soil to increase your chance of shroomling spawning, etc. Now also, why do I have everything in a crisscross pattern like this? The reason I have it in a crisscross pattern like this, let me pull out my thing, is because prior to the quality of love update, you could see glow underneath of bridges. So I have lava underneath all of this to provide lighting to within my spawn cell. As you can see now, bridges no longer provide glow, or you can no longer get the glow underneath bridges. I'm hoping that that changes before release, so if what I'm saying is not true, this crisscross pattern here is a great way for you to just be able to see underneath your mob farm while you're be able to while you know are still able to use everything. However, if glow still doesn't go from off of bridges from now on, then this pattern is time consuming and pointless. So don't do it. I chose this pattern solely for the lighting benefits. I have also chosen to do mold tile as well because I wanted to increase the chance of tentacle spawns within this area also, so that I can just get the increased chances of tentacles overall. You don't have to go with this many mold tiles. If you don't want to, you can do it with anything else. However, do remember that if you do place any other mob tile over the mold tile will stop spawning. So you don't, if you want the mold tiles to spawn, you don't want to place any other spawn tiles on top of them. All right, let's go ahead and get this pattern started. All right, so right here in between these two beach sand areas, we've got essentially one spawn cell worth of territory. So I'm going to go ahead and just start placing down what I want. So 1, 2. I'm just going to start with 11 of everything, just so that you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so at this point, I have basically placed down 11 of everything that is currently available. So now we want to take a look at our chart and see what options we have for additional tiles. All right, so we know that chrysalis, with higher amounts of chrysalis, we get a better chance of large larvae as well as cocoons. So we're going to want to place down some more chrysalis. We know that fungal soil, if we get that to 22, then we pretty much max out our chances of shroomlings. So we're going to want to get that up to 22. And we know that more slime is good for red slimes. Getting magma slimes up to 22 will get us the maximum amount of chances for butterflies. And I think that is everything that matters. Urban moss. We can get urban moss up higher for a better chance of ancient guardians as well. So let's start with the two that we know we want to get to 22. So that's going to be the fungal soil. So let's do 1. All right, we got 11 more fungal soil there. And then we want more lava. So let's put the lava here. Okay, and then we need more chrysalis, and we need more slime, and we need more moss. All right, so we're just going to fill in the remaining space with chrysalis, urban moss, and ground slime. All right, so at this point, I have filled up the entire area with at least 11, if not 22 or more, of every single type of spawnable tile that is currently available in the game. Like I said, if this is later on and you're watching this and there are more spawnable tiles, you know, you just want to fill everything up with at least 11, and then once this is all done, you're going to repeat this process through every single spawn cell. The inner spawn cells, the outer spawn cells, all of your spawn areas. Every single area that's currently crisscrossed here on my map. You're going to want to fill all of them with this basic setup. So let's go ahead and get that done, and then we will come on back and start talking about conveyor belts. All right, so at this point, I have got spawn tiles down pretty much everywhere, and what I want to do is I want to start moving all of this into the center. So every single one of my conveyor belts that I put down are going to have to move toward these exit points. So I've got one exit point here, and I've got another one here. Obviously, I've got a bunch. There's 4 of them right here. There's 4 of them going down here. There's 4 of them going down here. So at each one of these exit points, I'm just going to start by placing conveyor belts that are coming down this way, so that I know all my conveyor belts have to come to these so that they can be funneled into the kill zone. All right, let's get started and I'll be right back. All right, so at this point I have got all of my conveyor belts set up that are leading out of the spawn zone and into the kill zone. So now I want to place down conveyor belts that are leading toward each one of these areas. So what I'm going to do is, this is the very center here, so I am just going to split this. I've got these that are going to go this way, and then I'm going to rotate it, and these are going to go this way. All right, and so now I'm just going to again fill up each area until I have completely filled up the spawn cells. All right, so once I've completed this, I now have this little area here where the crabs are spawning, but when they die, I want their loot to move into the main conveyor area as well. So let's go ahead and we're going to put in a couple of conveyor belts to ensure that loot from these guys moves in to the main spawn area. And let's make sure that all of these get their loot. So I'm going to turn this around. All right. So now all of the loot that drops in the little kill zone here from the crabs when they die will move out into the main spawn zone, which will then move to the conveyor belts here, which will then move down into the kill zone. And now I just have to repeat this process on literally every single outer area, and then we will have the outer part of the mob farm completely done and ready to go. And we'll start to look at what we need to do for the kill zone and for the inner mob farm. All right, so at this point we have got conveyor belts over the entire outer area so that all of our mobs that spawn within the spawn zones are now moving into the outer kill zone. So next we're going to put down conveyor belts around the entire outer kill zone. We're also going to go ahead and set up conveyor belts on the mold layer that's part of the outer kill zone, as well as putting in the conveyor belts moving into the inner spawn zones. So essentially what we're looking at doing is setting up our conveyor belts going around in a circle. We're going to set up the conveyor belts on these little mold areas here, and we're going to set up our conveyor belts that move onto the inner area. So everything in this outer area should flow into these turret kill boxes and flow into the inner kill or the inner spawn zones. So we want to make sure now everything's funneling from the outer spawn zones through the turret kills into the inner spawn zones. So I'm going to start actually by putting down the conveyor belts that move everything into those areas. So we're actually going to start with the turrets here. And I want to make sure that it's facing inward so that everything flows inside. All right, I will see you guys when this is all done. Be right back. All right, so at this point, we've got conveyor belts set up going around the entire outer kill zone, as well as in the the mold tentacle areas, the mold tentacle kill zone, and the primary kill zone. Here's something I want to point out. You will probably notice this happening here. You can see how on my screen you can't see any conveyor belts, but I'm moving as though I was on one. That's because there are conveyor belts here. There are so many objects, so many conveyor belts, so many spawn tiles. There's just so much here that the game has this graphical glitch where it doesn't always show everything. So just because you can't see it doesn't mean that it's not there. So just be aware of that while you're building this. But once you have all of the outer kill zone set up and you've got the turret kill zone conveyor belt set up, then it's time to start working on setting up the inner spawn area. So this is the same kind of configuration as the outer spawn area. You're going to put down all of your spawn tiles within each one of the spawn cells and then cover them all up with conveyor belts that move into the inner spawn zone. After we finish that, we're going to fill this inner spawn zone area here with conveyor belts as well. And all of these green grass areas are going to get urban moss placed on them so that this area will become a kill zone as well. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started on doing all of that, and I will show you what this looks like when everything is finished. Be right back. Okay, so real quick, I'm just going to go ahead at this point and I'm going to show you the path that everything takes. So right now I am in the outer spawn area, and all of the mobs are getting funneled into one of these conveyor belts that connect to the outer kill zone. Then the mobs get moved into a circle with, on the left-hand side, they will have crabs spawning. On the right-hand side, they have mold tentacles spawning. They get moved around until they reach these turret kill zone areas where they get pushed into the turret kill zone. Here the turrets will blow away most of the mobs, and then everything gets moved into the inner spawn zone. Here in the inner spawn zone, everything on the conveyor belts gets moved into the inner kill zone, which is right here. And then in here, everything will just move in a giant circle until it is dead. There will be ancient guardians and scholars on the outer edges here, which will act as the primary kill creatures. They will be killing everything that's stuck here in the inner area. And then once it's nothing but loot, that loot will get funneled into this spot here where they will be grabbed by my robot arms and moved into the auto sorting system. And that is it. That is everything. The last thing you guys are going to want to pay attention to here is the auto sorting room. Now, if you've seen my auto sorting video, you already know what this kind of layout is like, so please be sure to check that out to see how to put together this auto sorting room. I have all of the wires hidden underneath this rug that I have, but essentially where I'm walking around in a circle right now, this is where all of the wires are currently placed. So everything in these chests is where all the loot is stored. I've got a repair bench here so that I can salvage all of the things that I don't need to worry about anymore. And that is everything. So all of the loot, all of the mobs, all get pushed into the central area. Now, right now, you'll notice that I do have lava in the central area. Like I have lava over here. You can see it on the left between the conveyor belts. You don't want that to be lava. I turned that into lava for the time being just so that I could provide better lighting, but I'm going to turn that back into what it's supposed to be, which is ocean water. You're going to want all of your water areas in here to be ocean water. So everything along these edges coming down, everything that's currently lava on the inside area here, I want all of that to be ocean water. And the reason for that is I want the tentacles to spawn so that I have more mobs there that can kill other creatures. The main reason for this is because while ancient guardians will attack everybody, the scholars, the caveling scholars, won't. And so you can easily get a buildup of cavelings in the inner area if you don't have something else to attack them. And that something else is essentially the ocean tentacles. So we're going to want to make sure we change that out so that we've got the ocean water instead. Now let's go ahead and take a look at what kind of loot you can expect from this mob farm. So in the first chest, we have all of the various ores that you're going to get. You're going to get wood from this farm. You're going to get a bunch of slimes. You're going to get a ton of different types of seeds, as well as more spawning tiles. You get a variety of valuables. You get fiber. You get ancient coins. You're also going to get every single one of these figurines that you see here. The only figurine that this farm drops that I don't have listed here are the Ancient Guardian figurines. They're very rare, and I honestly haven't had one spawn yet. So it's not in here to show off, but they do drop from this farm. It's just a very, very rare drop. But however, you can get all of these figurines. In addition, you're going to get a bunch of other little things like we've got scrap parts, we've got oracle cards, you're going to get some food, you're going to get crown summoning idols, you're going to get a ton of mechanical parts, feathers, skulls, ancient gemstones, seashells, as well as Easter items, Halloween items when it's that Halloween and Easter time, as well as larvae and mushrooms. Additionally, you get a variety of just general loot. So we've got all of these scholar items, all these caveling items. And there's more general loot in here. You're also going to get keys now. See, I've got some keys here. Keys now drop in this farm. And I like to go through here and I like to clean this out periodically, but it can very easily fill up with lots and lots of items. So this is an example of the loot that you're going to see in this farm. And so there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. This is my level 3 mob farm. It combines pretty much everything that we've learned over the last several videos, from controlling of spawn cells to manipulating how tiles work by hoeing the infected mold tiles, using mobs to kill other mobs, conveyor belts to move things around, as well as an auto sorting system to make sure that all of our loot is taken care of. You can fully run AFK and just go for hours and hours sitting in this one room. You're safely away from everything so that you're not affecting the spawn in any negative manner. And you can literally just sit here in this room and watch the loot pile in. So if you have any questions, please be sure to leave them in the comments below so that I can answer them for you, because I do read the comments. And if you have any suggestions on things that I should do or other types of videos, stuff you want to see, please also be sure to leave that in the comments. I hope you liked this video and I hope you liked this series, and I will definitely be adding to it whenever more details and more options for mob farming comes out. So until next time, stay crazy.